viewer. Hi, welcome. Super good to have you. So I'm gonna start. Hi, Suze. Hi, thanks for coming on, you guys. Oh, yay, this is super exciting. The first round of this went so well, and there was so much enthusiasm from you guys that I'm really excited to do this. I've been waiting. I've just been like, is it tomorrow yet? Is it tomorrow yet? This was yesterday. So I'm really happy to be here, really excited to answer these questions. You guys have sent me a lot of really awesome questions in advance, and I'm super excited to answer some of them, if not all of them. And then, of course, you know, the way this works is that if you have any questions on Instagram or on Facebook, and you want to ask them live, hey Nolan, you are more than welcome to just type them in the chat box, and I will check to see if people have asked questions in between answers. So that's how this works. Really excited. So let's jump right in. If ever you have a question at any point in time, just pop it in the chat box and I will get to it as soon as I'm done answering the last question. So the first question I got is, can you be Christian and psychic? And this is actually a question that I get quite a bit, which is kind of sad. There is so much dogma for a lot of people. And the first thing I want to say is this is not a religious practice at all whatsoever. I take people from, you know, I work with people from all different sorts of religious backgrounds, current religious practices, whatever. I really don't judge. You need to believe in whatever you need to believe in. Hey, Robert. You know, when it comes to shaming, that's where I have a problem. And for whatever reason, a lot of people, I'm not saying all, notice I'm not saying all, please. A lot of people in the, in Christian religions and other religions, but specifically Christian religions, seem to shame people, for, you know, experiencing psychic ability. Whether that be reading tarot cards or having visions or having clairaudience, psychic hearing, or, you know, anything like that. For some reason, they're told, hey, Voyager, for some reason they're told, hey, Ryan, that is not an okay thing. And so I have had several people approach me, whether it's online through chat or in person or in sessions, to say, hey, you know, a lot of people in my religion tell me that this is not okay, that what I'm experiencing is wrong or of the devil, or I'm going to hell for it, or, you know, whatever it is. And that's just simply not true. The truth of the matter is, you know, it's my slogan. If you're human, you're psychic. It's just part of who you are. And if you're experiencing psychic phenomena, it's because it's a human experience. You're supposed to be experiencing it. You're supposed to be having vivid dreams that maybe are about events that you experience the next day. You're supposed to be hearing whispers that maybe you can't completely make out. You're supposed to be smelling smells that aren't really there. You're supposed to be experiencing any or all of these things. Hey, Chad, I'm glad you could make it. Hi, Susan. So, you know, it's... Yes, you can be Christian and psychic. You can be Muslim and psychic. You can be Jewish and psychic. You can be Buddhist and psychic. I don't care. You can be anything as long as you're human. You're psychic. That's the rule. That's the general rule. So I really hope that helps some people here. The gentleman who asked me this question was really, really distraught, and asked me in person, and he, yeah, it was really quite devastating. He was homeless and had been on the streets for quite a while, and he was on the streets because he was experiencing psychic phenomena, and his family and his church kicked him out. So just really sad. And again, I have nothing against Christianity as long as it's accepting, you know. So that's all I have to say about that, unless you guys have any other questions about that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. All right. Let's see. I'm not seeing any questions yet from people, so I'm going to keep going on the list that I have. What does it mean energetically when you're experiencing anxiety? Whew! Okay. This is something that is really rampant right now. A lot of people are having serious awakenings right now. We just finished that huge motion, astrological motion of all of those retrograde planets. Now we're in Venus retrograde, about to go into Mercury retrograde. I mean, there's like a ton going on right now. And also, as people begin to shift their frequency and awaken, it's also starting to kind of jar the third dimension a little bit, in that, hey Kelly, in that we are starting to kind of experience these blurred lines between third dimension and fifth dimension. And what I mean by that is third dimension is physical, it is the human realm, it's where we are, it's where we're at. Kelly, I see your question, I will definitely get there. Thank you for asking it. So, you know, so that's third dimension. Fifth dimension is very much about what we cannot actually physically experience. So it's all energetic. It's all psychic. It's the psychic realm. And so a lot of people are experiencing these blurred lines where there are maybe time slips or shifts, or you know, I was talking earlier with somebody about how it seems to be going on a lot, that a lot of people are experiencing maybe going back in time, like they're gonna round the corner and run into a memory from when they were 13 or something. And it feels super real and super in that moment, even though it's 10, 20, 30 years later. And so the reality of that is that we are coming into this time where our vibrations and our frequencies are raising. And because of that, anytime there's an energy shift, it means that there has to be some sort of matching up. So think of it as though you're pouring hot water into cold water, okay? It's gonna take a minute, and the temperature of the hot water and the temperature of the cold water are going to start to integrate and match, and then you're going to get kind of this lukewarm water. So it's kind of that same idea. When the universal frequencies are like up here, and then you're like here, you know, then there's going to be some mixing and matching doing. Or if general society is like here and you're like here, there's going to be some general matching. And when that general matching happens, what happens is that our energy, hey Molly, starts to kind of, hi Shannon, freak out, right? It starts to freak out. And that's not all of anxiety, but that's a lot of anxiety. When people are feeling severe anxiety, especially social anxiety, like they don't want to go out, they can't deal with other people, or they're afraid of other people, or there's just something unexplainable, inexplicable that happens when they interact with other people, where they're just so like, that they don't know what to do. A lot of that is because their frequency is trying to match to the other frequency, and they're so incompatible, either because that person's frequency is super low or because that person's frequency is super high, that they're unable to match the frequency that's happening when they go out into the rest of the world. Hey, Megan. So that's kind of what anxiety could look like, of your frequency and another person's frequency, or the world's frequency, or society's frequency, or a place's frequency aren't completely matching up. And so it's that kind of shift to try and integrate, and it might just be difficult to integrate. And so you're feeling that anxiety, you're feeling that shift. So I hope that was helpful. to whom asked that question. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle says that explains a lot. I agree. The other anxiety you can have is when you're personally going through a raise in vibration, when you are personally going through a shift. And so the way that you're approaching life is different than how you would have yesterday, or the way that you're approaching life isn't working for you how it worked yesterday because you're upping yourself. And so it's like your own body trying to calibrate to itself. That's the other way that anxiety can happen as well. Okay, so Kelly says, how would you define a psychic attack? That's a great question. So, wow. There are many different forms that a psychic attack can take. First and foremost would be the one that everybody's just afraid of, right? Of like being cursed or being hexed or other stuff like that. And what I'm going to say about that is, if that's happening to you, it's because you're allowing it to happen. If that is happening to you, it means that you are enough on a fear-based frequency that is allowed to enter your sphere. If you are in a frequency where you're like, no, this is my space, thank you, then there's no way that intentional stuff will be able to be thrown at you. The more severe, more kind of undiscerned psychic attack that slips under the radar very easily is when people undermine you, or when people gaslight you, or when people are really trying to get at you and get your goad. That is a huge form of psychic attack. And I know it sounds really simple, right? When we think of psychic attack, and again, you know, here we go societally, there's the movies and the TV and all the witchy books and, you know, whatever. They make this big thing about, oh, there's a psychic attack and they're throwing energy at me and blah, blah, blah. But really, if we're looking at it from the logical, like, we are human, this is how human beings operate and work with one another on a regular everyday level. When we're looking at it from that point of view, we can really see that this is the most used psychic attack that there is. And here's why I say that. Think about when you get into, hey Daniela, think about when you get into an argument with somebody, okay? And they throw a nice little knife at you, a word knife, okay? And they're like, I don't know, they give you a big jab, like, oh yeah, well, you know, what about that test that you failed the other day? Or, oh yeah, well, I heard that you couldn't afford an office space in my office, or, you know, whatever it is, okay? Nice little jab right where it hurts. Think about how you feel in that situation. You feel completely powerless. You feel angry, you feel frustrated, you feel super hurt because it's true, you feel a little bit hopeless because it's something that they picked out that you were really striving for and then failed at, you feel shameful for that. I mean, all of these emotions that come up, and they instilled them in you. What they said instilled them in you. Hi, thanks for coming on. So really, like, think about that. Think about if your vibration is here and you're really trying to level with this person and, you know, trying to understand them and trying to meet them where they're at and, you know, whatever. And then they throw this word knife at you and you're completely knocked down. Your energy goes down, your frequency goes down, your vibration goes down. Frequency, vibration, interchangeable, same thing. You probably are going to be motivated to say something back that hurts them just as equally, or you're going to feel completely shut down, like you don't even want to try and continue the conversation. It's going to affect you for days after, etc. And what that might look like, since we're defining a psychic attack, what that might look like symptom-wise, so to speak, would be probably the most common one would be that you get sick. You get a cold. You get sick. And that's your body reacting. It's trying to purge something that's not working for you. If you think about the way that the physical body works, and we'll talk about this if we get to the healing crisis question that came up as well. But when you think about how the physical body works, when you have sickness in your body, your white blood cells gather together to fight off this thing that is not supposed to be in your body. And so energetically, when you think about things, you're doing the same thing, right? Your energy is trying to fight off this energy that is not yours and it's not serving you. And so it's the same type of deal. And really, basically, your white blood cells are paralleling your energetic cells to push this stuff out of your system. So getting sick would be the first thing. That includes a cold, it includes headaches, it includes stomach aches, anything where your body, your physical body is just in discomfort. It could also be chronic fatigue as well. You might get just super, super tired. And it could also look like rumination. It could also look like your thoughts are completely only going to that person. And then that would actually fall into the category of psychic vampirism, because they are taking your energy still. So that's kind of what the symptoms can look like. Let's see. Oh, hi, Catherine. Hey, Alexandria. Hi, Nicole. Hey, Christina. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. Okay, cool. I hope that answered your question, Kelly. If you have any other, if I didn't, or you want to know more about that, please pop another question in the box. All right, let's see. Nicole says, how can you tell if you're holding on to other people's energy and whose energy you're holding on to? Great. Great question. Let me just make sure Instagram. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so you can tell if you're holding on to other people's energy because you know. Ultimately, you know. And if you don't know in here, you know in here. And if you can't consciously bring this into here so that you can really physically, consciously know it, your body knows. So I know I've done this one on video before, but I will do it again because it's my favorite exercise in the world. So those of you who've seen it like 600 times, bear with me because maybe you just need to see it again. Basically, I'm going to do this sitting because it's easier. Okay. So basically, you're going to either put your hands by your side, or you're going to put your hands on your heart, or you can put them on your solar plexus. Some women like to put them on their womb space. You can do it any of those places. You can also just leave them by your side. You can do one on your side and one on one of those places. Doesn't matter, completely up to you. And what you're going to do, you're standing. I'm sitting just so I can show you because it's easier. But you're going to be standing. And you're going to have your hands wherever they're going to be, and you're going to ask yourself, you're going to say, my name is, let's see, your name is Nicole. Okay, so you're going to say, my name is Nicole. And if you fall forward, then you're you. If you fall backwards, then you are completely embodying somebody else's energy. Here's the other kind of addendum to that. If you say, my name is Nicole, you fall forward, then you're going to ask a follow-up question. You're going to say, my name is only Nicole. If you fall forward, congratulations. It is only your energy in your body. You're doing a swell job. Awesome. If you fall backwards, it means that you are in your own energy and there is also somebody else in your field. So what that might look like is, let's say that you are really, really upset about something, okay? And so you call up your best friend, and your best friend is going through a serious bout of depression. And you walk away from the phone call, and you start feeling even worse about your situation, okay? And for the next couple days, you start ruminating on it. You're like, oh gosh, like, why is this? And the emotion around it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And suddenly you're feeling very depressed, okay? So you do this test, okay? My name is Nicole, you fall forward. My name is only Nicole, you fall backwards. Well, that's because you were already feeling a similar emotion to begin with. And then when you also took on their energy because you're empathizing with them, you're commiserating, whatever it is, you're taking on their energy, and it's attaching to the energy of the emotion that's similar in frequency that you were already expressing and feeling. So that's how that type of thing can happen. I hope that explains that for you. And if you have any more questions, please put them in the box. Hey, Catherine. Hi, Daphne. Okay, cool. Let's see what else. All right, no other live questions right now, so I'm going to go back to the ones that were sent to me. Okay, actually, this is a perfect segue. So somebody emailed me this question. Please elaborate on the comment from the last live Q&A. So last month's Q&A session about psychic vampires. So what I had said in the last video was, when someone comes up to you and puts their hand on your shoulder, this can be a way of taking energy from you. She says, this is early in the second feed. Does this mean that every time somebody does that, it's a vampiric effect? She says, I mean, I'm a hugger, but also often this light touching, as in on the shoulder or arm, sends me the message that I'm focused on you and want to hear what you're saying. So this is a very valid thing to be thinking about. And the fact that this person is thinking about that really shows that their ethics are in check. Chances are, if you're wondering, like, oh, okay, I'm putting my hand on this person's shoulder, does that mean I'm stealing energy from them? Chances are you're probably not. If you are in your own energy, if you are solid in yourself, if you are coming in with it's all about intention. If you're coming in with the intention of, I want to console you, I want to comfort you, I want to show you that I'm here, obviously with their consent. And that's why you're putting your hand on their shoulder or their arm, or you're hugging them, or, whatever it is that you're doing. That is fine. That's not vamping at all. You're not coming in with the intention of taking their energy. You're coming in with the intention of showing them love, showing them support, showing them compassion. Now, how do you know when somebody else is doing it to you? And the question, well, the answer to that, I suppose, is go into your gut and really listen to your gut on that. And if your gut is saying, do not touch me, then don't allow them to touch you. And I know that can be really uncomfortable, especially if it's a relative, and to look at your aunt and be like, sorry, auntie, I'm really not comfortable with you touching me. It can be awkward, but it's really a big test in your solidarity and your autonomy and your ability to stand up for yourself. And I'm not saying that if you can't tell your aunts, like, no, please don't do that, then, you're no good. I'm telling you that this is a test. And if you don't pass it right now, that's okay. It means you're working towards it. The fact that this question is even in your head means that you're working towards it, which is just awesome and beautiful. Let's see. Hi, Kathy. Kathy says, hey, wondering what your take is on curses. If so, can it be taken away from a person using angels and spirit guides, etc.? So we did touch on curses a little bit in the beginning. And basically what was said was if you are cursed by somebody, it's only going to have effect on you if you allow it to. It's completely, curses take, just like anything, it takes an agreement on two parts for something to work. So if you feel like you've been cursed by somebody, it's because you are giving your energy to them in some way, shape, or form that's saying, it's okay for you to come into my field, which is allowing them to curse you. It's completely unethical, honestly. Completely unethical. Why would you want to ruin somebody else's life? And if you do want to ruin somebody else's life, well, then you can expect the same in exchange, because what you're doing by doing that is, firstly, you're lowering your vibration and your frequency, because you're moving into the realm of wanting to cause harm. And secondly, your focus is not on yourself, it's on somebody else. When your focus on somebody is on somebody else, it means your energy is going to them. Okay, so you're not in your full energy when you're doing that. You are actually giving this person energy that you're trying to curse. Doesn't really work out nicely. If so, can it be taken away from a person using angels and spirit guides, etc.? In this situation, I would say, firstly, have a chat with yourself. I want to know, why are you okay with this? Why are you allowing this person to curse you? And the answer that comes up is probably going to be something you don't want to hear. It's going to be something that you don't want to know about yourself. Like, you're addicted to drama, or you don't know how to live without drama, or you enjoy attention, even if it's negative attention, or you want this person in your life so badly, even though they're causing you harm, that you're allowing them to cause you harm in order so that they can be in it. I mean, there are so many different reasons why somebody would allow another person to curse them energetically. And those are all reasons for it. So first, before you even call in any sort of guide or angel or whatever you work with, I would really encourage you to look within yourself and start doing that deep shadow work, because a lot of what happens is that when we start calling in guides and protectors and all this other stuff, we're trying to pass the job off. We're trying to say, I'm not powerful enough to do this myself, so I'm gonna pass it off to these guys. Where that becomes a non-issue, where it becomes actually helpful, is when you are completely in your own power and you're like, I need help. Because asking for help is awesome and great and beautiful, and why I'm here, right? Like, if you need help, give me a call, but I'm not gonna sit here and do the work for you. I'm gonna sit there and guide you and help you while you're sitting in the chair across from me or the screen across from me, and I'm going to help you get to that point where you understand, this is how I slam into my power, this is how I get into myself, this is where I'm going, this is how I do this, these are my answers. And then you can turn to me and say, thanks for holding space, thanks for guiding me, right? But I'm not going to be there to say, hey, this is what you should do, and I'm going to give you all my energy, because that's just more destructive than it is helpful. And chances are your spirit guides, or guides or angels or whatever you use, chances are they're not going to help you out either if you're trying to pass stuff off on them. And things are actually probably going to get worse. Because they're going to look at you and be like, nah, you need to learn this lesson. And so things are going to get harder until you can finally face yourself and be like, okay, this is happening for these reasons, and I really need to work through this stuff, and I need to get in touch with myself and know who I am, and, you know, all that stuff. So I hope that's helpful. I know sometimes I'm harsh, guys, but it's just because I've been through so much stuff. I'm like, nope, see ya. All right, let's see. Catherine says, how can I find out more about a diagnosis of bipolar disorder in relation to psychic ability? Yes, woman! So this is actually my story. As a lot of you know, I was misdiagnosed with bipolar 1 when I was 20 years old. And I mean, I did the diagnostic tests, and which, by the way, I'm learning how to administer and score right now, and they are super complicated. There is a lot in these tests, that in these assessments, that are just like all these fact checkers and making sure you're lying and all this stuff that's like, for somebody to actually lie on these tests is really hard to do. So I did these assessments and got a very blatant score that I have had whatever bipolar 1 disorder. And you can read more about my story on my website if you go to doorwaytoself.com. In the About section, my whole story is there. But to give you the short version of it, basically, the psychologist I worked with agreed that he was like, fine, don't take meds, you're fine. And I'm not saying no to meds for everyone, but in my case, I did not want meds. So he took me through a cognitive behavioral therapy exercise, which basically I was being extremely cognizant of what emotions I was experiencing and when. And actually I have a video about this as well with Kara Dake. If you go to my YouTube channel, just type in Doorway to Self on YouTube and it should pop up. But we talk all about, psychic abilities in relationship to mental illness as well, which is so my jam. So I'm really excited about this question. But anyways, yeah, so basically, what I found was that every time I was experiencing a huge heights, a huge manic phase, it was because the people around me, in my social circle, in my family, and it didn't matter where they were because energetically we're all connected, right? So it could have been, you know, my mom in California who's 3,000 miles away, or it could have been my friend in England who is all halfway across the world. You know, it could have been any of these people. When they were experiencing huge highs in life, I was feeling them. And I was feeling them exponentially because, as we talked about earlier, right, when we did this thing, I was myself, I was my energy, but I was their energy coupled with that. And so it really threw me through the roof. And not only was I picking up on one person's energy, I was picking up on several. So it was basically anybody in my sphere who was having like a super good time in life, and I was like, woohoo, right? And I would run around the streets of Ann Arbor until 5 o'clock in the morning and do crazy things. Well, I shouldn't say crazy, but you know, you get what I'm saying. Very exponential, out of this world things. And when people in my life were experiencing sad moments or depression in general, or a lot of anxiety, or when I felt completely disconnected from myself, that's when I would experience major depression. And so I was following those. So that's kind of how you can tell. Obviously, I'm not a licensed mental health professional yet. I'm almost there, guys. Almost there. So I can't really give advice on, you know, whether or not you have bipolar disorder. But I can tell you that through my experience, through the experiences I've heard from my clients who have been diagnosed and then undiagnosed, or my clients who have been diagnosed and then working with me and then undiagnosed, there is a huge correlation in if you are clairempathic, which is you're able to take on other people's emotions as your own, or you're clairsentient, which means you are very sensitive to your connection of your energy to the outside world. If you are either of those things, and really just extremely sensitive at all, but specifically those two things will manifest as bipolar disorder. Hi, thanks for coming on. So those are kind of some signs and symptoms to look for. And of course, there's also the diagnosis of bipolar disorder with hallucinations. So that would be, if it's visual hallucinations, it could be clairvoyance. And if it's auditory hallucinations, it could be clairaudience, so psychic sight or psychic hearing. So I hope that's helpful to you, Catherine. Thank you so much for that question. Susan says, is now a good time to be looking for or starting a new relationship? Why or why not? And this actually is coupled with this question that Susan asked me the other day as well, which was, Venus retrograde has been so amazing. Why? Okay. All right. We're diving in. So Venus retrograde, you can read all about it, doorwaytoself.com/blog. I have a whole article on it, because it's really a beautiful and potent time. Oh my gosh. Okay, so basically in the very beginning of this month, October 5th, I believe it was, all the way through the middle of November, I think it's the 16th, Venus is in what we call a retrograde phase. The planet Venus is the planet of love, sex, finances, sexuality, relationships, self-love, self-care, etc. And what a retrograde planet is basically, it means that it's making things slow down. So when a planet appears to be moving backwards in the night sky from the Earth, it means that it's kind of slowing things down. Hey Shar. So basically, what happens during Venus retrograde cycles is this. A lot of the time, old relationships will come back to haunt us, essentially. So if you've been really thinking about your ex a lot, or if you meet somebody and it's like this really intense connection, it's probably a karmic relationship, so a relationship from a past life, that's coming back forth. Working through all of that, that's a lot of what the Venus retrograde cycle is. It's really not advised to start a new relationship at this point. Although the thing is that if it is a karmic relationship, it might be really great to start it at this point, because it means it'll probably end afterwards. It means that it's something that you're going to work out and work through during this 6-week phase, and maybe for a little bit afterwards. And then that'll be that, and you've learned your lesson and they've learned their lesson, and you can move on. Excuse me, human bodily function. All right, so that's kind of what I can say about that. Also, Venus is in the sign of Scorpio right now, so it can make for extra sexual tension, and it can also make for a lot of very obsessive thoughts or very, very intense feelings towards someone else. And so what I can say is that during this time, try and channel as many of those feelings as you're feeling outwards towards somebody else. Try and channel them in. Try and see, where can I feel this much love for myself? Where am I giving them my energy that I can give myself that energy? And that's not to say that you can't send them love. By all means, send them love. That's awesome. It's gorgeous. Do it. But it's more about, how can we make this equal so that you're not giving them everything? Because speaking from a major Scorpio here, it's very easy to do that. So I hope that, I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for, Susan, but I hope that was helpful. Okay, let's see. Much Elsh says, I'm curious what you think of intersectionality and how systems of oppression like racism, sexism, homophobia, etc. interact with the metaphysical world. Boom! Boom! Good question. You guys have such good questions tonight. I'm really excited about this. Okay. All right. So, basically, up until about, I'd say maybe like 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, I started really seeing an integration of people from backgrounds who weren't white, and specifically white women, integrating into spiritual fields, which I've been so effing excited about, because we're human. No matter what you look like or what your background is, you're human, you're psychic, you need this stuff. So I've been really excited to see that. But before that, for a really, really, really long time, it's been very much about white people only. And I think that that has been extremely harmful. And what I kind of see happening now, I might be putting my foot in my mouth right now, but we'll see. What I kind of see happening now is the same thing that I saw happening about 10 years ago. I remember specifically this instance where I was at an event and there was a huge uproar because there were two black people. There was a man and a woman, a couple, and they really wanted to join a ritual that was happening at this event. And the people actually, it's so upsetting, it's so aggravating. The people actually kicked them out of the event because they were black. And the people said, you're not allowed to be here because you don't have Druid lineage, because it was a Druid ritual. Firstly, just because someone looks black doesn't mean they don't have any white in them, okay? That's first off. So we don't know if these people actually did not have Druidic lineage or not. They very well could have had a great-great-great-great-grandfather from Northern England. We don't know that. That's first of all. Secondly, it should not matter what your actual DNA lineage is to be able to practice something that you resonate with, as long as you've done the research and you've really, you know where that culture comes from. So if these people, let's say these people had absolutely no, and by the way, can we talk about how many people were in that room who were white who probably had no Druidic lineage? 'Cause there were probably a lot. Anyways, regardless. So, you know, if these people, let's say these people had absolutely no Druidic lineage whatsoever. If they did the research to say, okay, this is what these practices look like, this is what these practices feel like, these are the past lives that I may have experienced, and we'll get to that in a second, that are related to this, you know, etc. And they're familiar with the concepts and the practices and where they come from in the history, it's absolutely okay for them to join. And I feel that the opposite of that is happening right now, where a lot of, again, here goes the foot in the mouth part. I'm just going to cross my fingers right here. But I feel like a lot of people who are, you know, who are black and exploring their African heritage are, you know, trying to exclude other races from practicing that stuff, even if those races have done the research. Same thing with Native American tribes, trying to say that other cultures and races cannot practice their practices. I do believe there is a ton of appropriation going on, and that's not okay. But what's also not okay is somebody who's genuinely coming to something because it is their whole being, it is their heart, it is their soul, it is their energy, it is their remembrance. And they've done the research, and they've done the meditation on it, and they've done the integration with it, and then other people, just because of the color of their skin or because of their DNA, are saying, oh no, sorry, you can't, you can't. So I think that's really a huge issue right now. And then aside from that, there is also the idea of past lives to bring back as well, of like people having, like, I remember being a black woman on the west coast of Africa. I remember being a Native American in the northern tip of Michigan. I remember being an Asian woman. Like, I remember all of these things, and I have legitimate remembrances. I don't practice those things, because they aren't what resonate with me anymore. And they haven't really in this lifetime. But I remember all of those things. And so what about these other people who are coming in and saying, well, what do you mean I can't participate in this ceremony? I know exactly how it goes. I know all of the steps for this entire ceremony because I remember them from when I lived 300 years ago in this exact tribe. And so that's just not fair. I don't care what color you are, what your background is. It's just not fair. And the fact of energy and metaphysics is it's not about tit for tat. And, you know, I'm not saying that white people are not to blame because white people have a lot to take responsibility for. You know, but that doesn't mean that other cultures need to exclude or shame or anything like that either. So I think that's all I have to say on that before my throat gets clogged. I hope that answered that question. Oh, and then as far as homophobia as well, I've seen that a lot also systematically, until probably about 10 years ago. But it used to be very much, especially with the embodiment of the divine masculine, divine feminine, it had to be a man and a woman. And then about probably 10 years ago, I started seeing things kind of shift and being like, well, you know, it's kind of witchy, not necessarily metaphysical, but if you want to read a book by a gay author who was very entrenched in ritual community, Scott Cunningham has some really, really great literature on how gay couples can embody masculine, feminine divinity. So I hope that's helpful. Let's see. All righty. That was a great question. Okay, I do want to make sure that I get to this one. Hey, Jenny. Thanks for coming on. All right. Let's see. There were so many questions for tonight. I'm trying to figure out. We only have a couple minutes left, so I just want to make sure that I get to this one that I promised I would do. And now I don't know where it went. How bizarre. Okay. This is called Sometimes I'm Disorganized. That's what this is called. Okie dokie. Aha, there we go. Cool. Okay, so this person says, relating to energy, how is it possible for me to feel such a strong bond with somebody even though we've not yet met in person? Is it that person sending out caring and loving energy my way? It's hard to explain, but I feel like they are my sister. So this happens a lot. And this has to do with past lives, karmic relations, etc. So it's very possible that for this person who feels like this other person is their sister and they're extremely connected, they've never met before, you know, they've just met online, and they have no connection other than that. And they just feel this extreme siblingly connection to this person. It's because you have known them in that way before. So let's say, you know, I mean, let's say your dad in this lifetime was your brother in another lifetime, or your mom in this lifetime was your uncle in another lifetime, or your uncle in this lifetime was your professor in another lifetime. We all have these connections, and people tend to think of past lives as like, oh, like I have a past life. But if you think about how long humans have been around for, or if you're somebody who believes that past lives can take all sorts of different forms because we're all energy, think about how long life has been around for. And then think about how many deaths you can have. Like, if you're a mayfly, you have a month of life. That's one life, done. So when you think about that in consideration, you can actually have thousands and thousands of lives under your belt. And so, yeah, that's why you might feel like somebody you never met before is your sister or your soulmate or your cousin, or, you know, whatever it is, that there's just this really deep, undenied connection to them that feels, it feels very vulnerable, and it might feel even a little bit, what's the word? Like almost like a longing, like you're really longing for that connection to happen again. And so the best thing you can do in that scenario is to either confront the person about it and say, hey, you know, I really feel this connection that I have with you. And I'd like to kind of explore that a little bit more and see what this is about and where we might have lived before, or, you know, whatever, if they're open to that. The other thing would be to explore it yourself, and try to meditate and try to go backwards and figure out, where was this lifetime? How did this happen? Why do I feel this way? However, that can also cause rumination. So if you want to avoid rumination, then actually your best bet would be to do some cord cutting, which we talked about a ton last Q&A. So if you want to know how to cut cords, I would suggest either hopping on the Doorway to Self Facebook page or YouTube page and checking out the last Q&A. I think it was right in the very beginning that we talked about cord cutting, so it should be pretty easy to find, and we talked about it for a while. Okay, and we're gonna take this one last question. I'll have to save the rest for next time. This is so awesome. You guys are so participatory, and I love it. I really love this. Thank you. Okay, so Kelly says, what are signs of psychic dreams? You dream them, and then they happen. I mean, I don't really know quite what to tell you more than that, unless I guess maybe what you're asking is, how do you know you're connecting psychically with somebody in a dream? Is it possible for you to expound on that question a little bit more, potentially, Kelly? Maybe. Okay, well, I guess I'll talk about that, and then if I see you type something in, then I can address that. But I guess how you know that you're connecting with somebody energetically in a dream, the first sign to look for is, do they feel like themselves? Every single person has an energy signature, whether you're conscious of that or not. And if you take a moment to just close your eyes and say, okay, what does my mom feel like? Or what does my dog feel like? Or what does that person who works in my office feel like? You know, if you take a moment to connect with that person and say, okay, this is their energy signature. If you're in a dream with that person and they feel like that, then it is them. If they don't feel like that, then it's something or somebody else, or it's a projection from your mind that's, hey, thanks for hopping on. That's trying to work something out subconsciously. So there's that. Okay. Oh, see, now you've expounded. Let's see. How do you know if yes, you are connecting with someone, or if it is a fear, just an issue from the past? So yeah, basically that's kind of the answer. Like, if you truly feel them, then it is their energy. They may not consciously be aware of it. This is especially true. I know that a twin flame question came up that I'll have to wait until next time to answer probably. But you know, this is especially true with twin flames because twin flames communicate very much on a 5D level when they're separated, which is part of the twin flame relationship. So, well, screw it, I'll just answer this question because it'll make things easier. So, the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame. A soulmate is somebody who you connect very deeply with on a heart level. It can be a lover, it can be your mother, it can be your brother, it can be your sister, it can be your father, it can be your teacher, it can be literally anybody. It does not have to be romantic, it does not have to be sexual. When you find a soulmate, romantic soulmate partnership, it's somebody who makes you feel really safe and at home and loved, and it is a beautiful relationship. You know, has its ups and downs just like every other relationship. But that's the deal. When you have a twin flame relationship, what that looks like is basically at one point in time, your essence, your energy was so big that it could not handle manifesting physically anymore without splitting. And so what it looks like is basically a twin flame is your split energy. So half of your energy is in your body, half of your energy is in the other person's body who is your twin. And when you come together, it's a divine union is what it's called. So basically, like, this is, when they say like your other half, it is legitimately your other half. But I do want to make sure that you guys know too that it's two wholes coming together to make a greater whole, because that's extremely important. Twin flames come together to do two things. One, to help each other to mirror the crap out of each other, so that you know exactly who you are, exactly what your purpose is, exactly all of your crap that you need to work through, all of your shadow stuff, all of your karmic stuff, all of your childhood wounding, all of it. They will show you literally all of it. Like picking up dog poop and putting it in your mailbox. They will show you all of it. That's thing one. Thing two is for, what happens then is, so you guys get together. It's like this really unconditional, beautiful, loving relationship. And then something happens and y'all split. Okay, you go your separate ways. One person is the runner, one person is the chaser, or the stayer. And basically what that means is the person who is the runner is like, this unconditional love is too much for me. Seeing all of my crap is too much for me. I gotta jet. So they run, they leave. The stayer or the chaser then has this ridiculous longing, and they're like, no, but this is the truth. We're supposed to be together. You're my person. We're the same frequency. We're the same energy. We need to be together. And so they do all this work to try and get the chaser to come back, or the runner to come back. That only makes the runner run away more. And then they end up just staying and either moving on or waiting for the other twin flame to come back. When the twin flame does come back, because they always do, when the twin flame does come back, and it may be several times that this pattern is repeated if neither or one of them hasn't worked out their stuff, then basically, then the next job is to fulfill their purposes together and change the world and shift frequencies. I have less than a minute on Instagram left, so I'm gonna just wrap this up. I love you guys. But yeah, so basically when they're in the phase that's separated, they communicate on fifth dimension because they're always in communication. So that's kind of, if somebody is completely recurring in your dreams and it's that kind of pattern, that might be something that you want to look out for. Is this person potentially your twin flame? So I'm going to wrap this up before Instagram goes away. I love you guys. Thank you so, so much for hopping on and asking all of these incredible questions. I'm going to do this again next month. I'm really excited about this new project, and I love you guys. Happy almost Halloween. Bye.